My name is Teresa Martinez. I'm 62 years old, a retired high school teacher living alone in O'Fallon, Missouri. One Tuesday afternoon in October, the pain hit my chest like a fist closing around my heart. I barely managed to dial 911 before everything blurred. The paramedics got me to Mercy Hospital St. Louis fast. I don't remember much after that, only the beeping machines and the cold lights. My son Jordan arrived that evening. He didn't come straight to my room. He went to the billing department first. I learned later he asked one question. How much is the bypass surgery going to cost out of pocket? The answer was $200,000 to $250,000 after insurance. The doctor explained I needed emergency bypass surgery to survive. Jordan didn't hesitate. He looked the doctor in the eye and said, "If she survives, I'm not paying a cent. She's had a long life already." He refused to sign the financial responsibility form. Then he added, "Don't do anything excessive. Just keep her comfortable." The doctor noted the request for no aggressive resuscitation, DNR, pending proxy verification, and Jordan left the hospital thinking it was over. I woke up on a Wednesday morning a few days later, throat raw from the tube body, heavy but alive. My mind was clear enough to understand what had happened. My own son had tried to let the cost decide whether I lived or died, and in the exact 12 hours after I opened my eyes, I made sure my son lost everything he thought he could take from me. If this hits close to home or makes you angry, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You won't want to miss what happens next. 6 months before that heart attack changed everything. I had been a single mother for 20 years. My husband left when Jordan was 18 and Megan was 15. I stayed in our house in O'Fallon, Missouri, teaching high school English until I retired 5 years ago. The divorce was ugly, but I kept the kids with me and built a quiet life. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, and every medical bill that came my way. I was diagnosed with a mild heart condition in my 40s. Nothing life-threatening back then, just enough to need regular checkups and medication. The treatments added up over the years, probably $35,000 out of pocket, even with insurance. Jordan never let me forget it. He would say things like, "Mom, we're the ones paying for your mistakes," or, "You know how much your doctor visits cost us." He said it casually, like it was just a fact, but it stuck with me every time. Jordan started his auto repair shop right out of community college. For a while, he did good money, coming in enough to buy a nice truck and help with things around the house. He even loaned Megan money to start her real estate business when she got her license. Megan was always the golden child in his eyes. She got the new laptop for college, the car at 21, the encouragement to chase big deals. I never complained. I just worked extra tutoring jobs to cover my own prescriptions and co-pays. But Jordan's luck changed. He got into online gambling, sports bets at first, then casino apps. He hit it well for a couple of years, but I started noticing the late-night calls, the way he snapped when money came up. The shop slowed down, bills piled up. He stopped offering to help with groceries or my car maintenance. Instead, he focused on Megan's success. She closed her first big sale last year and bought a condo in St. Charles. Jordan threw her a party. I wasn't invited. My mother-in-law, Helen Gonzalez, lived 3 streets over in the same neighborhood. She was Jordan's grandmother, my late husband's mother, and the only person who ever treated me like family after the divorce. Helen was sharp, organized, and kind in a quiet way. She would walk over with homemade tamales or soup when I wasn't feeling well, sit on my porch and ask how I was doing without judging. She checked my blood pressure with her old cuff, reminded me to take my pills, and listened when I talked about the kids. One afternoon, about 2 years before she passed, Helen sat me down on her couch and spoke plainly. "Teresa, if something happens to me, my attorney Gregory Lee knows exactly where to find you and what to do." She said it clearly, no mystery. I thought she was just being practical. She was in her late 80s. I squeezed her hand and told her not to worry. She smiled and changed the subject to the garden she was tending. Helen died suddenly 6 months ago, a quiet heart attack in her sleep. Jordan handled everything. He arranged a small service at the local funeral home, kept it short, and told me, "Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be." I stood in the back row, said goodbye in silence, and went home. I didn't know then that Helen had already made arrangements I would only discover much later. That was the last time I felt truly seen by anyone in my family until the heart attack forced everything into the open. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was alone in the living room folding laundry when the pressure in my chest turned sharp. It spread down my left arm like fire. I knew what it was. I had felt milder versions before. I grabbed my phone and called 911. The operator stayed calm while I described the pain. Within minutes, sirens approached. Paramedics rushed in, hooked me up to monitors, gave me aspirin, and loaded me onto the stretcher. The ride to Mercy Hospital St. Louis felt endless even though it was only 20 minutes. In the ER, they moved fast. IV lines, EKG, blood draws. The cardiologist on call came in and explained the situation. Clearly significant blockage, emergency bypass surgery needed within the hour to prevent permanent damage or worse. They needed a family member to sign consent and financial responsibility forms. My emergency contact was still Jordan. He had insisted on it years ago when I updated my records. Jordan arrived about 40 minutes later. I was already prepped in the holding area, monitors beeping steadily. He didn't come straight to me. The nurse later told me he went to the billing desk first. He asked for an estimate on the bypass procedure. The coordinator gave him the numbers $200,000 to $250,000 out of pocket after insurance coverage depending on complications and length of stay. He walked into the consultation room where the cardiologist waited. The doctor repeated the urgency. "We need to operate now. Without it, the risk is very high." Jordan listened without interrupting. Then he said, "If she survives, I'm not paying a cent." He refused to sign the financial guarantee form. The doctor pushed back gently, explaining hospital policy required next of kin authorization for emergency care. Jordan shook his head. "She's had a long life already. Don't do anything excessive. Just keep her comfortable." The cardiologist documented the conversation. He noted Jordan's request for no aggressive resuscitation measures, DNR status, pending confirmation of any advance directive or proxy. Jordan signed the refusal of financial responsibility and left the hospital. He told the nurse he would be back later if needed. As far as he knew, the decision was final. Laura Wong was the charge nurse on the floor that night. She had worked with me years earlier when I volunteered in the cardiac unit after retirement. Laura knew my history. When she reviewed the chart during shift handoff, she saw the refusal and the pending DNR. Hospital protocol required checking for any healthcare proxy on file, especially for patients with prior volunteer or employee records. She pulled up my old file and found the designation I had signed 4 years earlier, Kathleen Park, as my healthcare proxy. Kathleen's name, phone number, and relationship were clearly listed. Laura followed procedure. She notified the attending physician and the hospital's ethics liaison. The liaison approved contacting the proxy immediately. They called Kathleen at 10:47 p.m. Kathleen answered on the second ring. The liaison explained the situation. Emergency bypass needed. Son had refused financial commitment and requested limited intervention, but a proxy was on file. Kathleen said she was on her way. She lived in St. Charles, about 45 minutes away in traffic. Kathleen arrived at 11:32 p.m. She presented her ID, the copy of the proxy form she kept at home, and confirmed her authority. She met with the cardiologist and revoked the temporary DNR restriction. She signed the consent for surgery and financial authorization on my behalf. The team moved me to the OR within the hour. Bypass surgery began just after midnight. Jordan was already home by then. He slept through the night expecting a call in the morning with bad news. No one contacted him. The hospital followed the proxy's instructions. Kathleen stayed until the surgeon came out to report that the procedure went well. No major complications. She left at dawn, exhausted but relieved. I stayed in recovery overnight, then moved to the cardiac ICU. The next morning I woke up. on a Wednesday morning, the hospital lights too bright. My throat felt scraped raw from the breathing tube they had removed earlier. My chest ached with every breath, ribs tender from the surgery, but the fog in my head was lifting. I blinked against the glare and saw Laura Wong sitting in the chair beside my bed. She had pulled it close, arms crossed, watching the monitors. When my eyes focused on her, she leaned forward and took my hand gently. "You're back," she said quietly. "Surgery went well. The bypass was successful. You're going to be okay." I tried to speak, but my voice came out hoarse. "How long? 3 days total. You were stable after the OR, but they kept you sedated to let your heart rest." I nodded slowly. The room smelled of antiseptic and the faint metallic tang of IV fluids. Laura didn't rush. She waited until my breathing steadied. "I need to tell you what happened that night," she said. Jordan came in. He didn't ask how you were. He went to billing first, got the cost estimate $200,000 to $250,000 out of pocket. Then he met with the cardiologist. The doctor explained the surgery was urgent. Jordan refused to sign the financial form. He said, "If she survives, I'm not paying a cent." He told the doctor not to do anything excessive, just keep you comfortable. They documented it as a request for limited resuscitation, DNR status pending proxy check. Laura paused, letting the words settle. "It's all in the incident report I filed, exact words, timestamps." He signed the refusal and left. My heart monitor beeped a little faster. I stared at the ceiling, counting the tiles. I had always known Jordan saw me as a burden, but hearing it laid out like that cold, calculated hit differently. "How am I here?" I whispered. "Your proxy. We found it in your old volunteer file. You designated Kathleen Park 4 years ago. The hospital called her per protocol. She drove in from St. Charles, revoked the DNR restriction, and authorized the full procedure. Kathleen stayed until the surgeon confirmed everything went smoothly. Jordan never knew." I closed my eyes for a moment. Kathleen, my friend from book club, the one who had listened to me vent about family strain without ever judging. She had saved me when my own son walked away. Laura squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry you had to hear this, but you deserve to know." I opened my eyes. "I need my phone." She reached into the bedside drawer and handed it to me. My fingers shook slightly as I powered it on. Missed calls from Jordan 18, from Megan 5. I ignored them. I scrolled to contacts and found the name Helen had given me years ago, Gregory Lee. The call connected on the second ring. "Gregory Lee speaking. This is Teresa Martinez, Helen's daughter-in-law." A brief pause. "Teresa, I've been waiting for your call. Helen told me you might reach out one day." I swallowed. "She said you'd know what to do." She did. Helen came to my office 2 years ago. She was completely lucid. She wanted a separate will notarized privately away from family involvement. She left her house in O'Fallon, the one on Maple Lane, and a trust account with $95,000, all solely to you. No conditions, no other beneficiaries. The will was probated quietly 5 months ago. The deed was recorded in your name. My breath caught. "The house. Is it still mine?" Gregory's voice stayed even. "Let me pull the current records. Hold on." He was gone less than a minute. When he returned, his tone had sharpened slightly. "The original deed from probate is in your name, Teresa. But 10 days before your admission, a new transfer was filed. Power of attorney document purportedly signed by you transferring title to Jordan Martinez. I have the original probate deed. No such POA was ever authorized through my firm. The signature doesn't match any verified samples we have." I gripped the phone tighter. He forged it. That's my assessment. And there's more. A mortgage was recorded against the property 6 days ago, $300,000. Funds disbursed to Jordan. The lender is a local credit union. I ran a lien search this morning when I saw your name on my caller ID. The numbers landed heavy. $300,000. More than enough to cover gambling debts I had suspected but never confirmed. Gregory continued. "Helen left a sealed letter for you. She asked me to deliver it personally when you contacted me. I can bring it to the hospital today if you're up for a visitor." "Please," I said. "Come as soon as you can." We arranged for 2 p.m. I hung up and handed the phone back to Laura. She hadn't moved. "Helen planned for this," I said quietly. Laura nodded. "She was always looking out for you." I stared at the IV line in my arm, watching the drops fall one by one. Jordan had taken the house. Helen left me my safety net, my independence, and leveraged it for his mistakes. He had stood in that hospital and decided my life wasn't worth the cost. But I was still here, and I had 12 hours to decide what came next. With only 12 hours until the family gathering on Saturday night, I was still in the cardiac ward monitors, humming softly beside me, but my mind was moving faster than my body could follow. The doctor had cleared me for discharge the next day if vitals stayed stable, but I couldn't wait. Jordan had texted twice that morning, one asking if I was feeling better, the other reminding me about the gathering at his house, his way of pretending everything was normal. I didn't reply. Instead, I started making calls. First, Gregory Lee. He answered immediately. "Teresa, how are you feeling?" Better enough to fight, I said. I need you to double-check everything. Deed records, liens, the mortgage filing, pull the originals. Gregory was already ahead of me. I did that this morning after our call. The probate deed from Helen's estate is clean title vested solely in you. The POA Jordan used was filed with the county recorder 10 days before your admission. The signature page shows inconsistencies, stroke patterns don't match your known samples from prior medical consents. No notary from my office. It's fraudulent on its face. He paused. The mortgage closed 6 days ago, $300,000 from First Community Credit Union. Funds wired to Jordan's business account. I've drafted a dispute letter to the lender citing the disputed title. If we notify them today, they're required to freeze disbursement pending investigation. Do it, I said. Send it certified email copy to me. Already preparing. I'll need your signature on the affidavit confirming you never signed the POA. I can come by the hospital in an hour. Next, Uncle Carlos Gonzalez, Helen's younger brother, the one who had always been the steady presence at family events. He lived in nearby St. Peter's and had called me twice since I woke up, short messages just checking in. I returned his call. Uncle Carlos, it's Teresa. I need your help. He didn't hesitate. Anything, mija. What happened? I told him the basics. Helen's will, Jordan's transfer the mortgage. I didn't sugarcoat it. Carlos listened in silence, then exhaled slowly. Helen warned me Jordan might try something like this. She said he'd been asking about the house value last year. I'll go with Gregory to the O'Fallon police station this afternoon. Forgery and mortgage fraud, they'll take a report. I'll bring the probate documents and Helen's original POA revocation from years ago. Jordan never had authority over her property. Thank you, I said. My voice cracked just once. Carlos's tone softened. Helen loved you like her own daughter. We finished what she started. While I waited for Gregory, Laura stopped by during her break. She brought a printed copy of the incident report from the night of my admission. 5 pages, timestamps, direct quotes from Jordan's conversation with the cardiologist. This is official, she said. The hospital ethics board reviewed it. It's yours to use. I scanned the pages. Jordan's words were there in black and white: refusal of financial responsibility, request to limit intervention. No emotion in the text, just facts. That made it easier to read. Gregory arrived at noon with a folder and a notary public from his office. I signed the affidavit on the spot, confirming I never executed any power of attorney. Transferring Helen's property, never authorized any mortgage. The notary stamped it. Gregory attached the probate deed, Helen's will excerpt, and the county's original recording. He left immediately to file the dispute with the credit union and coordinate with Carlos for the police report. Carlos texted an update at 2:15 p.m. at the station now. Detective took the report, case number assigned. They're pulling Jordan's business records. Gregory's heading there next to provide the deed chain. I spent the next hours organizing my own evidence. I requested copies of my proxy designation, the surgical consent Kathleen signed, and the discharge summary. I folded Helen's letter carefully and placed it in the folder with everything else: the incident report, the affidavit, the probate documents, the mortgage recording printout Gregory had emailed. By late afternoon, the pieces were in place. The bank would freeze the funds once the dispute hit their fraud department standard procedure for title challenges. The police report meant any attempt to close or refinance would trigger red flags. Jordan wouldn't know until Monday at the earliest, when paperwork started circulating. I leaned back against the pillows, the ache in my chest, a dull reminder of how close it had been. The family gathering was tomorrow night. Jordan's house backyard lit up, tables set for 50 or 60 people, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends from the neighborhood. He had planned it months ago for his youngest son's birthday, but now it would serve a different purpose. I wasn't going to confront him in private, not after what he did. I would walk into that gathering with the folder in my bag and lay out the truth in front of everyone who had ever believed his version of family. My discharge papers were signed. I would go home tonight, rest a few hours, and be ready. Jordan thought he had ended this when he walked out of the hospital. He was wrong. Saturday night, Jordan's house in O'Fallon was full of lights and voices. The backyard glowed with string lights strung between the trees, tables covered in plastic cloths, folding chairs arranged in rows. Smoke rose from the grill where Jordan's cousins flipped burgers and hot dogs. Music played low from a Bluetooth speaker, oldies, the kind Helen used to hum while gardening. About 50 or 60 people milled around aunts, uncles, second cousins, neighbors who had known the family for decades, friends from Jordan's shop and Megan's real estate circle. Kids ran between legs, chasing each other with glow sticks. Laughter carried over the fence. Jordan stood near the patio steps, holding a plastic cup, smiling wide. He tapped a spoon against a glass to get attention. Conversations quieted. He raised his voice just enough to carry. "Everyone, thanks for coming tonight. It's my youngest birthday, but honestly, this feels like more than that. We almost lost Mom this week. Serious heart attack, emergency surgery, but she pulled through. Doctors say she's a fighter. Family sticks together, that's what matters. Mom's here tonight, and I'm grateful. To family." A round of applause and murmurs of agreement. Someone called out to Teresa. Glasses clinked. Jordan's eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on me. I was standing near the back, near the fence line, wearing the same navy dress I'd worn to Helen's service. The folder was tucked in my bag. I met his gaze and gave a small nod. He gestured toward me. "Mom, come say a few words." Heads turned. I walked forward slowly, still sore from the incision, but steady. People parted. Jordan handed me the microphone, his smile practiced confident. He stepped aside. I wrapped my fingers around the mic. It was warm from his grip. "Thank you all for being here," I began. My voice carried clear across the yard. "I appreciate the prayers and the concern, but there are things that need to be said tonight, and they're not easy." The yard went quiet. Jordan shifted his weight, smile still in place but tighter. "Last Tuesday I had a heart attack. I was rushed to Mercy Hospital. Bypass surgery was needed immediately. Jordan came in. He didn't ask about my condition. He asked billing for the out-of-pocket cost, $200,000 to $250,000. Then he spoke to the cardiologist. He refused to sign the financial responsibility form. He said, "If she survives, I'm not paying a cent." He told the doctor not to do anything excessive, just keep me comfortable. That was documented as a request for limited resuscitation, DNR status pending proxy verification. A few gasps. Someone in the back muttered. Jordan's face hardened. He stepped closer. "Mom, you're on medication. You don't know I have the incident report right here?" I pulled the folder from my bag and held up the printed pages. Exact words, timestamps. Hospital Ethics Board reviewed it. Jordan left the hospital believing the decision was final. I continued without pause, but I had a healthcare proxy on file. Kathleen Park, my friend. The hospital followed protocol, contacted her. She drove in, revoked the restriction, and authorized the full surgery. Kathleen saved my life, not my son. Jordan's jaw clenched. This is private family business, not the place I turned to face him directly. You made it public when you decided my life wasn't worth the cost in front of hospital staff. Murmurs grew. A cousin in the front row covered her mouth. "There's more," I said. "Helen Gonzalez, your grandmother, left me her house on Maple Lane and $95,000 in a trust, solely to me. The will was probated 5 months ago. Helen knew what she was doing. She wanted me secure." Jordan laughed, once short and sharp. "Grandma wanted the family taken care of, not just one person." I opened the folder again. The original probate deed is in my name, but 10 days before my admission, a power of attorney appeared, supposedly signed by me, transferring the house to you. The signature was forged. It doesn't match any document I've ever signed. Then you took a mortgage against it, $300,000, to cover debts I suspect are from gambling. I held up the printouts, county recording lien search mortgage summary. Gregory Lee, Helen's attorney, has confirmed it. The POA was never authorized. The title is disputed. The bank has been notified. The funds are frozen. Jordan's face flushed. Mom's confused. The meds, the stress, she's not thinking straight. This is a misunderstanding. Grandma would never cut out her own grandson. Uncle Carlos stepped forward from the side. He had arrived quietly earlier, folder in hand. "Helen told me everything, Jordan. She revoked any authority you might have claimed years ago. Here's the original POA revocation and the probate file, all public record now." Gregory stood beside Carlos, calm, gray suit, crisp. "The county recorder has been notified of the fraud. Police report filed yesterday, forgery and mortgage fraud. Case number assigned." Megan, who had been standing near the grill, moved closer. Her voice was tight. Jordan was just protecting the family finances. Mom's medical bills have always been a strain. He didn't want more debt. I looked at her. Protecting finances doesn't mean deciding whether your mother lives or dies, or stealing the house Helen left me. Megan's eyes dropped. She glanced at Jordan, then at the crowd. Her hands trembled. I didn't know about the DNR part. She swallowed. I thought it was just the money. She turned and walked toward the side gate. No one stopped her. The gate clicked shut behind her. Jordan looked around, searching for allies. His cousins avoided his eyes. An aunt shook her head slowly. The music had stopped. Someone had turned off the speaker. This is ridiculous, Jordan said, voice rising. She's twisting everything. I was trying to be responsible. I spoke quietly, but the microphone carried every word. Responsible would have been signing the form so I could have the surgery. Responsible would have been telling me about Helen's will instead of forging papers to take the house. Responsible would have been admitting your debts instead of risking my life to pay them off. Jordan opened his mouth, closed it. His shoulders dropped. He looked smaller under the string lights. No one moved toward him. Uncle Carlos placed a hand on my shoulder. Helen would be proud, Teresa. She always said you were the strong one. I set the microphone on the nearest table. The folder stayed open so anyone who wanted could see the documents. I didn't come here to destroy anyone, I said to the yard. I came because for too long I let silence protect the wrong people. Helen gave me the means to speak. Now I have. People began to drift. Some hugged me quietly. Others shook their heads, glancing at Jordan before leaving. He stood alone near the patio, cup still in hand, staring at the ground. The party was over. 180 days after that Saturday night, the first consequences arrived quietly like mail in the box. The credit union received Gregory's dispute letter the Monday after the gathering. Within 48 hours, they froze the $300,000 mortgage disbursement. Title examiners flagged the forged POA. The loan officer called Jordan to verify. He couldn't provide proof of authorization. The funds never cleared fully. Most were clawed back as disputed. The remaining balance became his personal liability, unsecured. The county court acted next. Gregory filed a quiet title action to void the fraudulent transfer. The judge reviewed the probate deed, Helen's original will, and the mismatched signatures. The POA was declared invalid. The deed transfer reversed. Title reverted to me within 60 days. Jordan received the court order at his shop. I wasn't there to see his face, but Uncle Carlos told me he stared at the papers for a long time before setting them down. The police investigation moved steadily. The O'Fallon detective assigned to the case subpoenaed Jordan's business records and bank statements. The paper trail was clear: mortgage proceeds transferred to gambling sites, then withdrawn in cash. Forgery and the third-degree mortgage fraud, both felonies in Missouri. Jordan hired an attorney, but the evidence was overwhelming. He took a plea deal, 3 months in probation for 5 years, full restitution of the disputed funds, community service, and mandatory financial counseling. No prison time, but the record would follow him. His auto repair shop lost customers. Word spread fast in a small suburb. Suppliers tightened credit terms. He closed the doors 6 weeks ago. Megan's fallout was slower but just as sharp. Real estate is built on trust and referrals. After the gathering, several family members and neighbors pulled listings from her. 2 major contracts fell through, one from an aunt who had been planning to sell her condo, another from a cousin who backed out of a buyer agreement. Online reviews appeared subtle at first, then pointed. Unreliable agent, family issues affecting professionalism. Her brokerage issued a warning. She lost her top producer status. She still works, but the commissions are thinner. She hasn't called me since that night. I blocked both their numbers the week after discharge. No texts, no voicemails, no surprise visits. When Jordan tried to reach me through mutual friends, I declined. Megan sent one letter, handwritten, apologetic in tone, but I returned it unopened. There was nothing left to say. Family doesn't mean obligation. It means mutual respect. When that breaks, so does the connection. I moved into Helen's house on Maple Lane 2 weeks after the court ruling. The keys felt solid in my hand. The place smelled faintly of lavender sachets she kept in every drawer, her quiet signature. I kept her rocking chair by the window, her photo on the mantel, the two of us on the porch swing, squinting into the sun. I didn't change much. I didn't need to. The garden needed tending, so I started there pulling weeds, planting new bulbs. Uncle Carlos came by once a week, at first helping with paperwork, then just to sit on the porch with coffee. He never pushed, he just listened. Living alone again felt different this time, not lonely, peaceful. I wake up without the weight of someone else's expectations. My medications are on schedule, my checkups are routine. I volunteer again at the hospital cardiac unit lighter shifts. I walk the neighborhood in the evenings, nodding to neighbors who now know the story and offer quiet support instead of pity. I don't hate Jordan or Megan. Hate would mean they still control how I feel. They don't. Jordan made choices driven by debt and shame he never admitted. Megan chose silence to protect her own path. Those are their burdens now. I carry mine no longer. When you reach my age, people tell you family is everything. They mean well, but they're often wrong. Family can be everything, or it can be the thing that costs you the most. Don't let it become the reason you sacrifice your health, your home, or your peace. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. They're the line you draw when love turns into leverage. I learned that Helen didn't leave me a house and money just to be generous. She left them because she knew what it meant to be overlooked, to be seen as a cost instead of a person. She planned for the day I would need to stand up for myself, and I did. If you're reading this and you recognize the guilt, the silence, the belief that you owe someone your life because they're blood, hear me clearly, you don't. You don't owe anyone your survival. You don't owe anyone your security, and you certainly don't owe anyone your silence when they try to take both. Helen taught me that, not with lectures, but with a will, a letter, and the quiet certainty that I was worth protecting. I still go to church, different, one smaller congregation. I sit in the front row now, not to be seen, but because I'm done hiding in the back. Thank you for staying with me through this. If any part of it resonated, if you've ever had to choose between loyalty and self-respect, know that you're not alone, and you're stronger than you think.
Thank you for listening to Mother Diary. May this story remind us what true family really means.